Board games. I'm going to talk about board games, but I'm not gonna shout. Today I am shooting from the hip as I talk about mentorship, and I am inspired by Tabletop Mentorship program, which is excellent, and it's something that I am planning to probably be part of again. And I would like to talk about the mentor and mentee, both of which titles have applied to me. And I'll talk about generally considerations and obligations and all the things that might be advantages in these situations. And board games, I'm not gonna shout. Board games and mentorship, I'm not gonna shout. Hello and good morning, good afternoon, good whatever it is, wherever you are. And I am indeed Bez. Hello, Jess. It is lovely to see you. And this is 10 a.m. UK time, which means it's another episode of Bezzy Beats and Boardgame Blether. So, yes, today what I wanted to talk about is my thoughts on mentorship. Obviously, there's advantages on both sides. There's obligations on both sides and things to consider. Now, as it says down at the bottom, this is inspired by the excellent Tabletop Mentorship program, which I guess I should give them a wee link. If you go to tabletopmentorship.org, then that is where you would find out about them. But yes, this is an lovely place. They connect people who need mentorship with people who are willing to give mentorship, and then they put it all together and do wonderful things, connecting people, because that's what it's all about. I mean, alone we can do so much, but together we can do so much more, and that is ultimately the key idea behind mentorship. Let me crack on with the regular bits, and then I will come back to it and explain. Just says, what's the paint color called on your wall? I have no idea. I would call it's the sort of peachy orange color, but I don't know the technical thing. Anyway. Recent highlights, living life and seeing the sights. Recent highlights, playing games and other delights. What have you been up to? What I'm interested in you. What have you got and done? Have you been having fun? So, yesterday was a parent's birthday. We went to a restaurant. It was fantastic. Everything was like very well crafted. The chef putting different ingredients together in a way to have a fusion of tastes that all work together and create a greater whole. Yeah, and also it was lovely just spending time with the parents. Sat around for a while, just chatting, walked back home together, walked out together, had a bit of a chat on the way late at night, had a bit of a few games. We played a few games of a game about creatures that sort of a game about quickly grabbing creatures that sort of see difference and watching out for turnips. And then we also played one hand of rummy, which is one of my parents, like, just for them, every game is just, why play this game when we could be playing rummy? That's kind of their thing. But it was a lovely day, and we're going to continue the celebrations while I'm here today and tomorrow. Today I'm going to be cooking a turkey that was in the freezer. Hopefully it will go well. I bought some turnips. I mean, not turnips, parsnips. I've got some potatoes and stuff. So that is, also the recent achievements, just doing a bit of a walk. That was good fun. What have you been up to? Let me know. But in the meantime, let me talk about Brilliant thing, brilliant thing. What's a little thing which is brilliant? Well, I'm going to explore mentorship later on, which is brilliant because, as I said at the start, getting to people who are wanting to, one's got knowledge to give and is wanting to share it. The other one's got maybe wants to seek knowledge or wants to seek guidance and then they want it. But, straying off topic a bit, I'm going to say that deciding not to eat things, but basically not always accepting things just because they're there. That is brilliant. I mean, this thing is inspired by the fact that yesterday, yes, we had a 3-course meal, and between the 3 of us, we also got 2 different sides. We got a side of veg and a side of chips with everything. And yeah, it was lovely. The starter was fantastic. It's always exciting. The main course was definitely the highlight. But sure, the sweet was lovely, all sugary and delicious. But did I need it? I'm not sure I did. And then at the end, coming home, having the birthday cake, and one of the people involved was like, hey, I'm sorry, I can't have so much birthday cake. I know that this cream is, so what do you want me to do with it? And then they ended up, getting rid of a bit of their portion, which does seem kind of wasteful. But the notion of you don't need to eat it just because it's offered, you don't need to eat it just because it's there, taking the autonomy, that feels like a brilliant thing. And so, firstly, hello Dina, it is lovely to see you. Thank you for jumping in. And hello Josie, it is lovely to see you as well. I hope that you are doing well. I don't know if you're celebrating anything right now. And also, on an unrelated note, to anyone waiting for me for, board game arena stuff, probably the next week, I might not have any time or mental space for it, just to let you know, but with being with family and then London Toy Fair happening, which is going to be a really full-on convention with me trying to pitch to publishers and stuff. But yeah, Dina gives a shout out to Stream Elements bot, which is fantastic. Stream Elements just, I take some credit, but it spits out random messages like this. Everyone is brilliant. Even though some humans can be mean, there is still the potential for love and brilliance. So maybe humans only have the potential to be brilliant, but all my regulars are brilliant, I think. You are brilliant. And that is the words of Stream Elements, and also sort of me. And you're very welcome, Dina. Anyway, so brilliant thing. There's so much brilliance around us, like the sky, the buildings, the fact that we have walls, the fact that we have wires, the fact that we have internet. Let's just celebrate brilliance for a moment and appreciate, especially in these times, it's important to appreciate that life is not all bad, that it's worth, living and stuff. Anyway, as I get into the main topic, as always, feel free to comment, ask questions from follow. This is very much ad-libbed, shooting from the hip, as I said at the start. And so please do feel free to comment with your own ideas of why mentorship is brilliant, why mentorship is a real obligation, things that you need to consider during it. And if you disagree with my definition of mentorship, that I will give you in just a minute. So that seems like a good place to start. What is mentorship? Fundamentally, it's usually 2 parties. One is the mentor, one is the mentee. The mentor is coming from a position of more experience and offers knowledge and guidance. Those are the key things that the mentor is offering. It might be that you don't even have any more knowledge than the mentee. You don't need to be at a more advanced stage necessarily. Sometimes offering that guidance and holding them accountable, these can be super valuable things. And Dina has a quick question. Mentoring mentors, do you think there should be a system for this? I think that anyone who's willing to do it for free, for example, via the Tabletop Mentorship program, I think that they should all be encouraged. I don't think, as long as everyone's trying their best to do it, I don't think that you need to kick anyone out. I mean, obviously, there are certain problematic individuals and you need to keep everyone safe. But, except for that really remote possibility, I think that everyone should be allowed to mentor. And if people are charging money for it, because sometimes mentorship is something that it's done essentially as a mutually beneficial thing. One person gets the gratification, satisfaction of seeing other people succeed. Teaching, they say, is sometimes the best way to go over your own knowledge. I mean, that's a big part of why I do these streams, to kind of, I don't know if it can be considered teaching, but I try to talk about stuff and then I try to solidify the ideas in my own mind. And as you're doing these things, you do definitely have ideas and inspiration for yourself. You also have a pride for the other person. And obviously, the mentee, their advantages are fairly clear. Pushing them for success. There's someone invested in their success. There's someone, offering them guidance, holding them accountable, giving them the knowledge that they need, pointing them in the right directions. And yes, sometimes it's done for free, but sometimes it is a paid thing. Sometimes it can be part of a class where there is it's got to be more of a one-to-one relationship. There has to be a fair amount of one-to-one time for it to be a mentorship, because if it's me teaching a bunch of people over the internet, or it's a weird thing. Like, in some regards, is Mark Rosewater my mentor? In some regards, Mark Rosewater is, because I've learned so much from them. And I'm definitely a better game designer, having listened to hundreds of hours of their podcasts and read millions of words of their articles. Eventually, you soak up some of that person's knowledge. And Mark does try to pass on the knowledge. It's not just about promoting their own game that they're working on. It's also about, hey, this is lessons learned during this thing. This is what I think the 10 key components of a game are. But that's not really what I'm talking about. I mean, I say Mark Rosewater is a mentorship in a very casual way, but really mentorship, even if it's a classroom, I wouldn't call that mentorship. I would call it when you've got a one-to-one relationship. And yeah, back to Dina's question, should there be a system? Should there be some sort of qualifying system? I don't think so. If they're charging money, other people should investigate and see what qualifications does that person have. Ask around. Anyway, so that is what mentorship is. And Jess, who's getting better after the booster shot, glad to hear. And yes, for sure, take it easy. So that is mentorship. What are the advantages for the mentee? I think these are fairly clear. You learn. You've got one-to-one time. You can ask any question you want. You can ask someone expecting them to have some of the answers. If I am in a one-to-one, when I was in a one-to-one call with Matt Fantastic and they were giving me advice, I would be able to ask them their opinions on things, and they would be able to speak with someone with many more years of experience. There's someone else invested in your success. Emotionally, this can be so big. Having someone who's there as a cheerleader. And, the word cheerleader reminds me of something that Tabletop Mentorship program does, which is really interesting, where they say, what kind of mentor are you? And maybe we can explore that, because different people need different types of mentorship, if that makes sense. And just says, I want to mentor. My life is ridiculous. You sometimes do have the answers. Thank you for saying that. Is a mentor a life coach? Well, a mentor could be for your general life. It could be for everything. Obviously, right now, because this is ostensibly a board game podcast, I'm talking with mentorship with regards to board games, but I do think that it can absolutely be very targeted. It could be mentorship. I mean, is a personal trainer a kind of mentor? Like, that's an interesting philosophical question. Like, if you go to a gym, then you've got a personal trainer. Are they a mentor? Like, I would say, yeah, like, even though they're not normally called a mentor, I would say they are. I mean, and what makes that different from a normal mentorship? Like, they're invested in your success. They're passing on the knowledge of how to train. They're holding you accountable. I think it's really good. Josie says, I think mentorship can sometimes be confused with coaching. Mentors can act as coaches, but coaches aren't always mentors. So there's a bit of overlap, but neither one is fully within the other, is what Josie is saying. That's an interesting point. I would be interested to hear what your personal definitions are. I could look it up on the dictionary right now, but I'm genuinely really interested to hear what you've got to say. Jess says, yes, a personal trainer is a mentor. They're a muscle mentor. Is a trainer a mentor? Like earlier on, I said a teacher. I said a teacher is generally not a mentor unless they are doing it in a small one-to-one group. If you're doing, if you've got a private tutor, I think that a private tutor would normally cross the line into mentorship, where they're, being your cheerleader, they're giving you advice, they're passing on knowledge, and yeah, I think that is that. For sure, a Venn diagram. Anyway, let me see if I can quickly look at. So this is Tabletop Mentorship Program. That's their Twitter. This is their thing. Let's see if I can sign up form for. Oh, so I can't see the sign up form just now. The next, they've not had a session for almost a year now, because it does take a lot of their energy to match people, and right now it is just the two folk, and I know that they are wanting to get more folk involved. But yeah, one interesting thing that they did previously do on the sign-up form is they said, what kind of mentor are you? Are you someone who is very strict and will hold them accountable? Are you someone who's more of a cheerleader? Are you more of someone who will pass on knowledge? Are you more of someone who will gently guide? And you ticked like up to 3 of the boxes. Anyway, Josie says, for me, a mentor is supporting you with a specific knowledge skill set, increasing and guiding in that. Whereas a coach, as in coaching or life coach, can use the coaching techniques with any life goal area, but without that specific profession or knowledge area. Yeah, I would agree that for it to be a mentorship, it doesn't mean that you have to be miles above the other person, but you have to be at least equal. Like, you have to be ideally like one step above them. So right now, if I wanted to mentor someone about, doing art for board games, well, if they'd never done it before, then I could absolutely mentor them, because I'm coming from a place of experience. I've done it for my own stuff, even though I've not done it for anyone else's stuff. The act of having tried to do it has also given me experience. But on the other hand, if I wanted to be having an interaction with Vincent Dutrait, well, I clearly can't mentor them because they have so much more experience than me, but I could potentially coach them. Is that what you're saying, Josie, just to clarify? And if so, then I would, 100% agree. So yeah, mentee advantages. You get that cheerleader, and thank you, Jess, for the lovely illustration of what that means. You get the support, you get the guidance, and you get the knowledge, and possibly you even get a connection. That is the main advantage. Mentor advantages. This is less obvious, but no less real. Sure, sometimes you're doing this as a paid profession. There are many people who do one-to-one relationships. Like I'm having a call with Matt Holden, and they are giving me some advice, and we're going to start up some regular meetings. And it is one of the perks of being part of the Indie Game Alliance. Similarly, Jonathan Gilmore does, if designer of Dead of Winter and many other amazing games. If you want to chat with them, they will chat with you about basically anything for £40 an hour, and you can do that. And Justin Gary, who's made loads of amazing games, has a course where they will have a one-to-one sessions with you. But let's assume that it's not paid for. Let's assume that it's just a free gig that you're considering because it's an opportunity that's come up. Maybe someone's looking for a mentor. Maybe you're thinking, oh, do I want to teach someone? Well, Jess can probably attest to this, that teaching is incredibly fulfilling. You get pride when you see someone that you were giving information to, when you see their game and it's blossomed up and then they've achieved some level of success. Myself, just to give a bit of background over my own mentorship, I have been a mentee once, formally, I would say. I've been obviously, like lots of these interviews, there's like some of them, like I've had one single call with someone that has turned into a bit of coaching. And I think also mentorship, just to go back to the definition, it has to be sustained. It can't just be one session. It has to be an ongoing thing. But yeah, I've done that. I've mentored about like 5 people through the Tabletop Mentorship program, and I've also mentored DutchYoda. Doing it with DutchYoda was probably the most fulfilling because it was something that was sustained. It kept happening, and DutchYoda's game, it was originally called Drawing Lovely Suits, and then it's evolved from a completely abstract game into being something about planning parties, and then Yoda did a Kickstarter. It successfully funded. It wasn't like a massive thing, but they got a lot of people to back it. Good for them. And now they've got a game that many people are playing, and that is ultimately what they wanted to achieve. And so I'm really glad that they managed to get there. As a mentor, obviously, I'm incredibly proud that Yoda's managed to do this. And there's a sense of transference, of achievements, of pride, of validation, of thinking, yeah, I managed to help this other person do this thing. Yeah, I have some value. I have something to give to the world. There's some, going back to what I said about teaching being a good way to learn yourself, to focus on your own ideas. Yeah, as you mentor and then someone saying, but what exactly should you do here or there? Or as you guide someone through the processes of making a game, maybe you start to think, oh, maybe this is something that I should do. You learn things yourself. You feel a sense of validation and you feel a sense of pride. That's basically the main thing. And Jess has a couple of questions. For the parents' birthday, I've already said as much as I'm happy to say. I said that earlier. 40 quid an hour, yes, Jonathan Gilmore is incredibly experienced, and I would expect them to want to focus on games, but frankly, if you want to pay them 40 quid an hour to ask them about something else, then probably should. And let me do a quick turning around. So yes, there's advantages for everyone. And if you have any thoughts on advantages yourself, then feel free to chime in. Mentor considerations. So I think it's important as a mentor to realize that this is sort of like going into the disadvantages. Basically, it takes time. It does take energy. If you're not someone who likes talking to people, then you probably shouldn't be setting up a mentorship where you talk to people. If you don't like typing, then you probably shouldn't agree to mentoring someone and then typing out, exchanging typed messages. It is something that you need to commit to regularly. That is basically it. Just like anything else, it takes a bit of time. It takes a bit of energy. There's no other things that I can think of that are really disadvantages. And of course, for the mentee, things can vary very much depending on who your mentor is. If it starts to not be so great, then of course you can leave. You can say, oh, this isn't quite working out for me. I'm going to drop out. But I don't think there's any downside. If you're committed to doing what you say that you're going to do, then sure, it takes a bit of time and energy. But that time and energy, I guess it's kind of like front loading. It's kind of like sharpening your axe. They say, like, if you had to cut down 10 trees, figuratively speaking, you'd probably want, and you had a day to do it, you'd probably want to spend half the day sharpening your axe, the first half of the day. Get your tools in order, do your training. And by improving yourself, by improving your training, you will improve all the games, all the things that you do from then on. Like, I did a convention, BG DevCon. I did it, I think, 3 or 4 times. But the theory behind that was that playtesting is not allowed because it's not about someone bringing a game and then getting other people to playtest it. Obviously, that's amazingly valuable. I go to playtest things multiple times a week. It's incredibly useful. But by spending a day not showing off your game, but just learning in general about things in general, how to make good games, learning from other people, that then allows you to do everything much faster down the road. And yeah, Jess says, yeah, what if your mentor isn't very professional? But what if they confuse a vulnerable client? What if they cross boundaries? I mean, these are potential. Yeah, that's a fair point. That there's a whole possible range of issues that could arise. I think that I am assuming good intent, and I would say that if you find yourself that it's not a healthy relationship, obviously you're always free to walk away. And of course, if there is a financial cost, then the disadvantage is also the financial cost. But I think that for all this talk for Jess, which does raise a really fair point, that, in any human interaction, there is a degree of vulnerability. There is a degree of possibility of things going wrong. But you can always walk away. I think and I've never heard of anything happening like that in mentorship, because the people who mentor has to. And yes, no, there is no title, I am a mentor, or it's a relationship. It's like there's no friend qualification. And there's no, if you do it through the Tabletop Mentorship organization, then obviously they are somewhat responsible for everything that goes on. But for me, mentorship is just a relationship. It's not a title. And Josie, I will get to your question in a few minutes, if that. Actually, yeah, I'll just answer it really quickly. I think mentors can learn as much from their mentees as much as mentees can learn. Yep, I would agree. And the earlier question, are my family as into board games as I am? No, they're not. I mean, I'm the only one who was so into board games that I became a board game designer. But that's the very short answer to that quick question. And Dina says a friend qualification program would be so odd. I agree. But anyway, what are your obligations as a mentor? And this is like, I think that as a mentor, you have one obligation to be clear about your qualifications. Don't be truthful, don't deceive, and care about your mentee, basically. I think those are the key obligations. So be truthful about your qualifications. Of course, in life, like, truth and honesty is an obligation that I think it would be better if everyone saw as an obligation rather than, sorry to get political, a lot of politicians saying things and then it just being accepted that once you get into power, you won't fulfill all your promises. So saying, this is what I've done. This is what I've done in the past. This is the kind of experience that I can give you. I think you have an obligation to at least stay equal, if not ahead, in knowledge as your mentee. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to know more than them about everything. That's clearly not possible. We're all humans, we're growing in different directions, even within board games, even within board game illustration, even within photorealistic board game illustration, like whatever narrow margin you create for yourself, whatever the subject is. Someone might know more about the craft of doing it, someone might know more about getting jobs, someone might have like a story from some orthogonal tangential career that actually is super useful in doing photorealistic illustration for board games and getting those kinds of jobs. But you have to come with some sense of knowledge. Secondly, just caring, making your regular commitments and sticking to them. So if you've agreed to meet every couple of weeks or whatever, meet every couple of weeks. So that is an obligation. And thirdly, and I'm glad that Jess was here to bring up all the thing about safety and everything, but again, I've never heard of any abuses of power, but I do think that it's a key thing to care about your mentees' welfare, not only to do no wrong by them, but I think that if you don't care and if you don't have some investments and if you don't want them to succeed, then you're maybe not going to be a great mentor. I don't think it's enough to come from a place of, I'm able to do this and it'll make me feel good because some random person's got to. Sure, actually, you know what? That might be enough. If your thing is, it'll make me feel good to have them publish a game, then that's kind of tying in with, it's symbiotic. Your goals are aligned. So you do care about them, and obviously caring about their safety and everything comes together. Jess talks about, replies to mentors learning from their mentees, saying, that's very similar to how a therapist can learn from their client. Being a mentor is a fantastic way to grow, says Dina, and build your own people skills. And Dina used to have a mentor. Dina has a mentor had a mentor that turned into a client. It's always a bit strange when we have our meetings. Okay, so because, the relationship changes, and after mentorships, they can last a long time, they can last a short time. There has to be some continuation of it, but for sure. Jess mentions having to be a befriender for a vulnerable young person. I'm sure that there's a lot of is that a position of mentorship? I mean, it feels. I mean, normally when I think of mentorship, I guess it is. I guess when I'm thinking of mentorship, I'm thinking of a lot more focused mentorship in that they've got their own objectives, they've got an idea of what they want to do, and then you guide them towards that specific thing. But guiding them vaguely towards being a better person, yeah, sure, I can see that. Josie says, I sometimes think a friend qualification could be a great idea. Having a GCSE in relationships could be a good grounding in life for many people. I run a mentor program in some schools. We have business professionals supporting students with thinking about their career paths and skills for that industry. We have safeguards in place, but we are working with 17-year-olds. I'd love to hear about some of those safeguards, especially if you think that they are the typical things that should be in place for, you know, if I'm mentoring people, or, I mean, not that I'm comparing myself, I'm saying that I'm a dangerous individual, but generally, if I were, for a tabletop mentorship program, connecting people, Jess says that the whole mentoring of a vulnerable person was very fulfilling and led directly to a career in teaching. Show the young person how to handle life and problems. I'd like to date people with PhDs in relationships, or a GCSE would do, says Jess. And yeah, for sure, marketers are great at making connections. Okay, so mentor obligations, I think we've kind of gone around them. And then there's also obligations on the other side. And I think this is the key thing that a lot of people forget, that yes, there is a bit more, responsibility put upon the mentor quite often. Like you say, okay, they're doing more of the work, but the mentee, they have an obligation to actually commit, to see things through, to be genuine, to care about the outcome. I think, again, the mentee has to be honest, and they have to be in a place where they can spend time, where they can carve out some amount of time, however much time that is. They have to be able to carve out some amount of time to work on themselves. The sad fact is that if a mentee is really struggling, and this sounds horrible, if they're spending all their time on children, childcare, on working, on fixing things around the house, and they don't have a spare like half hour here or a half hour there to work on some of the things that would help them down the line, maybe they're not in the right point to be a mentee. And I mean, it's a horrible thing to say, and ideally everyone should be in a case where they aren't having to, where they are able to have some downtime to work on themselves, to relax, to do whatever needs to be done. But with the guidance of the mentor, I mean, if all that the mentor is doing is talking about how the last few weeks have gone, and then but no progress has been made towards achieving their goals, well, that's not really mentorship. I mean, it could become therapy, which has its own value, but maybe that's not what the mentor signed up for. I think that the mentee has to say, these are my goals, this is where I want to be, and yes, I do have a bit of time to be able to spend on these things. And the mentee does have to be able to generally, again, when there's a meeting, go to the meeting. If there's a regularity expected for text, do that. And being present, says Dina, like, that's a great one. During the meetings, be present, be open, come with no agenda of your own. Well, like, this depends what you mean by agenda. I think that the mentee sets the targets. The mentee should say, these are my goals. This is what I want to achieve. Will you help me towards this end result? And the mentee has to be willing to put a bit of work. Stay open, says Dina. Yes, I would definitely agree with that. Stay open to input. Be open to... And yes, absolutely, be upfront if your goal changes. Yes, 100%. That sort of communication as a mentee is a key responsibility. Of course, eventually things are going to go potentially wrong. And there will come times when someone doesn't attend the meeting. At which point, if one person's there at the meeting and the other person's not there, ideally there should be ways to ping the other person, say, hey, what's going on? Email, Facebook, whatever gets a ping on their phone, or, phone them up if you've got their phone number and say, hey, what's happening? Are we meant to be here? I think that whatever your relationship is, if you've got a meeting with someone and it's been a couple of minutes and they're not there, yes, especially if you've not interacted with them for a few days, check in with them, check and say, hey, are you still doing this? And yeah, that it shouldn't come to that, but too often it does. And I think that, frankly, if I had to say, yeah, the mentee, should be like the one leading the charge. If there's not been a meeting scheduled and it's like, oh, what's going on? Both people should be responsible. It's meant to be a partnership. Both people should be responsible for setting up the meetings. But obviously, as a mentee, I do think that you are potentially getting a bit more out of it, but you also need to put more in. You need to say, yes, I'm committing to this. I'm committing to spending time working on myself, not just coming here, having a meeting for an hour and then going on for life as usual. You need to be ready to change. I think that's a key mentee obligation. You need to be ready and willing to change, and you need to be open to change. You need to be open to actually, doing a bit of homework potentially. So yeah, that's basically it. If anyone else has any thoughts on mentorship, if you've got any thoughts on mentorship that I've not talked about, I'd be really interested to hear it. If you've got some, advice from your own school-based mentorship program that you think, oh, some of these things could apply to tabletop mentorship, then please do let me know about that. I'm really interested. And I am chatting to Mike and Grace, so I will easily be able to pass that on. The other things to say, yes, if you're watching this after the fact, then obviously if you can think of, or if you're watching it live, if you disagree with the notion of what is mentorship, do you think that, we had a couple of edge cases with a personal trainer, with, being an adult, like an adult friend for someone who's younger and vulnerable. Like, they have those Big Brother or Big Sister programs, which Big Brother kind of has horrible connotations of 1984. But anyway, you're kind of... But if you've got any other advantages that you can think of for either party, anything that you think either party should consider, or any other obligations, then please let me know. People who use our Alcoholics Anonymous and Narcotics Anonymous have sponsors, says Jess. They are like mental health or recovery mentors. Yeah, I can definitely see that. It's kind of like someone who's a bit more experienced. They've got that experience of having overcome that addiction, and then you're going to talk with each other. Yeah, I can definitely see that. Dina says, I actually have a mentor training session next week. Interesting. Here in Finland, we need a paper saying you completed the training. So you mean you have a training to say that you can be a mentor? I mean, obviously, like, I guess it depends what mentorship program you're going for. But I'd really love to hear more about that. Maybe, I don't know, in half a, when are we meet? Yeah, not the next time we meet, but the following time. Like 2 weeks, 3 weeks and a half, maybe 3 weeks and a half, we could talk about that and how that's going. Jess says, Bez, do you need a mentor? Is that what you're saying? I mean, I don't have a mentor right now, and I would definitely benefit from a mentor, which is why, I'm chatting to Matt Holden to get some advice from them. But sure, if anyone out there is willing to, give me some guidance, then I'd love that. And honestly, when people come on here, I'm very privileged that I have people that I then get to pick their brains about stuff. Although it's not necessarily quite mentorship, but like when Dina was coming on before and then asking Dina more questions, even though it's for the benefit of everybody out there, obviously a lot of Dina's advice was helpful for me. And when Rory comes on, like, I learn from Rory. When Shem comes on, I learn from Shem. When Alan Paul comes on, I learn from them, and that's really helpful. Josie says, I think sometimes setting a meeting limit, such as saying we will only meet for 6 meetings, it helps to focus and set objectives. This can be extended, but again, seeing if it's open-ended or not with the number of meetings, that if the meetings have no set time limit, it can become unfocused. And Josie sets theirs at 6 weeks to start off, and it really helps. That's really interesting, and that's very similar to what Tabletop Mentorship program does. I think they have, I can't remember what their thing is, it might be like 4 months, and then the idea is that you meet every 2 weeks for a minimum of 30 minutes, 20 minutes, something like that. And the idea is that, like, 30 minutes, it's actually enough to get some advantage. And if both people are super busy, then 30 minutes is enough to have some benefit. Obviously, it can overrun. And in the situation with Yoda, we said, okay, it'll last until this amount of time. And then that amount of time came, and Yoda was just about to put the Kickstarter together. And so we said, okay, we'll extend it by 2 more meetings so that you've got your Kickstarter and everything's done, and I'll get you kind of help get you over the finish line, essentially. But yes, definitely having an end goal, I think, is brilliant, because if it's just, oh, do this until whenever, I mean, then you're unlikely to really get value from it. Having that time frame, it gives it some scarcity, which is going to mean that both parties kind of respect it a bit more. And also, it will help give it some guidance, give it an arc. So you say, okay, this is my goal for this time. And then along the way, you're like, how am I going towards my goal? Not that the goal can't change, but yeah, I think that having that target is really interesting. Dina says that she was asked by We Lot Games Finland to sign up as a mentor. That sounds fantastic. Again, maybe that can be our discussion points in like 3 or 5 weeks, potentially. And a bit of lovely chats in the chat. Thank you, Jess, Dina, and Josie, for all being super lovely. And yeah, Dina also says, depending on the needs of the mentee, we do a meeting once a month for 6 months minimum. Yeah, that sounds good. I think that once a month I can... It's all about how quickly are things progressing. Like, if you're working towards something and you're working 5 days a week on it, I think that once a month would probably not be enough, because you're going to make so much progress that you're going to have so much to talk about. It's going to possibly be too much change from session to session. Whereas if it's, oh, you've got your own full-time job and your own childcare, but you're able to spend a bit of time working on other things, but you are only able to spend a couple of hours a week. In that situation, maybe once every month might even be too much. In that situation, maybe it should be once every 6 weeks or whatever. But yeah, it definitely depends on the person. It depends on how much progress is likely to be made. You want to be with them as they grow, not just there for snapshots. That's what I kind of feel, but you might disagree. Anyway, I don't have anything more to say on the subject. If you have anything more to say, then please go ahead. Or, of course, it is the point where I do start wrapping up and say, over to you. What are you up to? You can share, but only if you want to. Over to you. Is there anything you want to share? Anything about which you care? Is there anything you're looking forward to? Anything that you're not, but you just need to do? Whether it's serious or frivolous, whether it makes you happy or morose, feel free to share us. Whatever is in your flows. So yes, what are you up to? Personally, I am going to be doing a bit of cleaning, a bit of cooking, and a bit of walking, and a bit of probably playing Grummy because that's parents' favourite game. But that's basically my day. Walking, get bits of exercise, maybe with the parents. I'll try to encourage them out because I know if we go out together, I'll probably make sure to do a walk myself because it won't be enough for me. But yeah, the primary things are making a nice meal for the family and making everything clean and nice because, to be honest, everyone in this house is like struggling a wee bit physically. Oh, and there's one thing from a sibling that I need to try and sort out as best as I can. Yeah, I'm not going to go into it. Just wants to randomly say that, I say randomly, just spur of the moment, say mentors are good because humans are social animals that should help each other with life. Dina says, yeah, I'd be happy to talk about mentorship, but maybe after I've had a few sessions, that's it. Jess, talking about what you're up to, says, I need to rest some more and eat. But a walk would be good. Not sure if I should walk yet. Chomping at the bit to get back to my double 45 minutes workouts per day. And yeah, I think that see how your body feels if you've just taken another vaccine, if you're feeling a wee bit weak. Maybe literally walk around a block. Sometimes just going out of the house, walking around a block. I know it seems ridiculous, but just, yeah, if you're feeling up to it, try that. And if that's enough, you feel, oh, that's not enough, I really want to walk more, then maybe walk for like 10 minutes. Don't push yourself too much. No, Jess, I am on a holiday for 2 days. I'm heading back tomorrow and, yep, back to London in time for Toy Fair. Jess asks, what am I cooking? I am cooking turkey with stuffing and parsnips. It's essentially a late Christmas dinner. Dina just did the nails so she can film a solo sessions later today playing Pocket Paragons. Dina is also hoping to finish catching up on Die Rolling's videos on YouTube, as there's been a lot of content lately. Sounds fantastic. And at some points we need to, yeah, I need to scroll back probably to double check the people that you said I should connect with, and I do apologize for not doing that. And yes, absolutely, keep the mentor comments coming in. I appreciate that. I do really appreciate that. I didn't mean to. Yeah, I understand that it's not that random. Just says wants to see Dina's nails. So, yep, Dina, if you share it on the Discord chat, that would be cool. And, yep, Josie says, I've been staring at an overcast sky. This is pretty overcast as well. I see skies of white, clouds of black. There is no blue, that's a color it lacks. But I think to myself, it's still a wonderful world. But Josie doesn't want to go out, but should go for a walk. Josie will go out and spend time with the chickens. Wow. Do some cooking and attempt to finish an assignment that she's been procrastinating about doing. And Jess, if you want to find my Discord, you just follow the link that Stream Elements earlier very kindly posted. So that feels like a good place to recap and wrap up before I finish up. So yeah, what have I been talking about today? I've been talking about mentorship. What recent stuff happened? Well, it was a birthday, went to the restaurant, spent some time together, played rummy and a few games of a game about quickly grabbing creatures that are totally different and watching out for turnips. And I gave myself a handicap on the third game and eventually I didn't win, which was nice. We talked about mentorship. We talked about the mentorship. There's got to be an ongoing element to it. There has to be a one-to-one relationship to it. And unlike coaching, there has to be a level of expertise. We talked about for the mentee, you learn, you get connections, you get someone cheering you on. For the mentor, you get to learn as you teach. You get the fulfillment and the joy and pride in someone else. For the mentor, make sure that you've got the time and energy to do what you're committing to. For the mentee, just make sure that the mentor is someone that you trust or that it's being done through a body that you trust. And make sure that you can step away. Obviously, again, I've not heard of any issues with mentoring, but that doesn't mean that there aren't any possible. Make sure that there's some trust and some ability to move away. But mentee, make sure that you have the time. Make sure that you have the time to commit, that you're ready to make some changes in your life, that you're ready to do the homework. And for the mentor, you're obligated to, in my opinion, tell the truth, keep up with some degree of knowledge, be truthful in your degree of knowledge and stay ahead of I say stay ahead, although that's not really true. I think that having an obligation for a set amount of time, like Josie said, is a really good idea rather than saying it's an open-ended thing. And for the mentee, making sure that you are in a place where you're able to change. And Jess mentions, just humans being social animals, and that's a great point. That's, mentorship, humans helping each other. It's good stuff. stuffbybez.com/discord. Josie asked for a Discord link in the Facebook, so hopefully that's come out. Yes, and if you follow that link, stuffbybez.com/discord, that should redirect you to my actual Discord. And please do join in my predictions game. And Dina, if you could add your 2 predictions to the predictions page, that would be really super lovely. Jess says, what kind of food at the restaurant? Was it aubergines? No, it was a fish-based place. So I personally had sea bream, and my parents both had cod. And so, there were no aubergines there. Yeah, Jess, I mean, why not? Also, that would get you out of the house and get yourself a bit of pampering if you can afford it. Go for it. Get to it. And that is basically the end of the show. I have nothing more to say. Yep, if you have any quick questions, then otherwise I'm going to say check out Stuff by Bez everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, Twitch, YouTube, all the places, Stuff by Bez. Boardgame Arena, Stuff by Bez is 3 separate things. Facebook, it's actually facebook.com/thingsbybez, because back in the day, Facebook did not allow you to have the F and the B next to each other. But if you search for Stuff by Bez, you will find me. And yeah, I've got a few groups and a mailing list on my thing. And also this year, I'm going to try and send out 1 email a month, which, yeah, I think like last year, I probably sent out about 4, which doesn't seem like enough because I do have stuff going on. But share, spread the word. And thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for continuing to be lovely, having good chats, riffing off each other. I love seeing the positive vibes, even if, and wow, that is fantastic. It's about £3, Great British pounds for a foot massage. You see, that's a good reason to move to Thailand. I want to ask how much is it for a full body wax? But, and Word Early Chips asks Jess, there was a side of chips and veg. But yes, thank you everyone. You are all lovely. And the only thing left to say at this point is, for now, bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye, 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 bye. This is a goodbye song. Bye, 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 bye. Thank you for watching along. Bye, 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 bye. This is the end of the show. Bye, 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 bye. And now it's time to go. Bye-bye, Jess. Bye, Josie. Bye-bye, Dina. Bye-bye, everyone watching after the fact. Have a lovely day. Have a wonderful whatever it is, wherever you are. Lots of love. Bye-bye.